It it's always an amazing thing to me. I just never ceases to amaze me of the lessons that we can learn from the Bible. And some of the passages that you look at, um, maybe have seen many, many times before. And this time when you look at it and you say, wow, there's a new lesson in here. There's something else that the Lord has. So it's just, well, it's just a miracle that it's all been written and it's all been saved for us down through the years, and we have it here. And so we continue to, I just look at today's lesson as we look again at chapter 8 and in in Daniel, and how there are other lessons in there that I had never thought about before. So anyway, but let me get the slides up and and get that going. And put it on big screen. Make this stuff go away. And I think we're good. Okay. Anyway, so as we're saying, we're in chapter 8 again, and this is the chapter that had the vision that Daniel had about the goat and the ram, and it was a dream that he had when he was in Susa, um, and that's this place over here. It's spelled different ways, Sushia, different places we see, but it's in modern day Iraq or Iran, and Daniel says he was there on the king's business. He was there. Babylon is over here. Um, and so when he had this dream, Nebuchadnezzar was the king. Nebuchadnezzar is the one that wasn't really um, smart, I guess. He was a party guy. That's my name for him. I've never read that anywhere else, but I call him the party guy because he was having the big party and the handwriting on the wall. So we talked about that last week. But when Daniel had this dream, um, he could be aware. You could pick it. He was there. This dream occurred during the time when Babylon was powerful, was strong, and he may be when he was in Persia, which modern day where he was in Persia. He may have been seeing the rumblings of the of this kingdom rising, Persia, and maybe that foretold to him what might be coming with the Medes and the Persian. But there was no way for Daniel to know anything about Greece at all, and that was coming. So this dream he had about those two um, certainly was of God. It was something that he couldn't, as a man, look forward and see. And the dream he had here paralleled, as we said, it paralleled the other two before it. The one that Nebuchadnezzar had of the skull of the statue made out of different kinds of precious metals and feet of clay and all, and then the dream that Daniel had of the beasts that paralleled the same prophecies, but from different perspectives. And you can see that the perspective of Nebuchadnezzar, of the mankind looking at the precious metals, these kingdoms were glorious and great and whatever, and from man's point of view, but from God's point of view, they were beasts, and each one was getting worse and worse as time would go on. And this new dream in chapter 8 really provides amplification, more information about what is going on with two of these kingdoms. The one that's coming, the next one that ahead of Daniel after Babylon, which is the Medes and the Persian, and the one after that of Alexander the Great and Greece coming in. So it's amazing. These are all parallel, and they are all um, amplifying each other, so it fits together. Not only that, and we won't talk about it, but these things link them to the prophecies that we find in the New Testament, in Revelation and elsewhere in the Old Testament, that they all link up. And we see. But let's look at it now, this same chapter 8 from the point of view of expectations and this lesson.
Expectations. Expectations, goodness. Expectations can be blinding. Expectations can distort what is right in front of us. Expectations can cause confusion. It can cause frustration. Expectations can even birth betrayal, or lashing out, or acting in ways we never would have even expected of ourselves. Expectations are blinding, which is one of the reasons why it is so important for us to calibrate our expectations. Matthew chapter 16 has always been a passage I found so intriguing. Because Jesus is there with his disciples. He's already done incredible things to all of these different crowds. And Jesus then finally asks his disciples an identity question. Specifically, Jesus asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" And oh goodness, the disciples start listing all kinds of options. Well, I don't know. Some of them say that you're John the Baptist, and some say that you're Elijah, and some say Jeremiah, and some say the prophets. And finally, Jesus is like, all right. Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And this is one of those moments where Peter opens his fat mouth and says something beautiful. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 16, Peter says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And in Matthew 16, 17, Jesus replies, he's like, "Oh my goodness, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. This wasn't revealed to you by man. No, my identity was revealed to you by God himself." And then Jesus even takes it up a notch. He goes, "You know what? You're no longer going to be called Simon. I'm calling you Peter. And on this rock, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." And then things start to get a little awkward. You see, just a couple of verses later, verse 21, Jesus starts to talk about the fact that as the Christ, as the Messiah, he would be executed, betrayed, handed over, tortured, even crucified. And this sets Peter off. I mean, Peter in verse 22 has the audacity to pull Jesus aside and rebuke him. Verse 22 says, "Never, Lord, you are wrong. This shall never happen to you." What in the world is going on in Peter's mind? Like, what would possess Peter to not only challenge what Jesus has said about himself, but to rebuke him for even saying it? Answer? Expectations. You see, what was going through Peter's mind is what would have been going through the rest of the disciples' mind. What would have been going through the minds of the Jewish people. That when the Messiah comes, they expected it was the Messiah's responsibility to destroy the enemies, to wipe out the enemies. The Messiah wasn't supposed to come and receive pain. The Messiah was going to give pain. The Messiah wasn't supposed to be crucified. The Messiah was supposed to be the crucifier. There was an expectation of what the Messiah must do when he came, and the expectation was so strong that even when Jesus revealed who he was to his disciples, they could not hear it. They could not see it. They even had the audacity to rebuke him. And finally, Jesus in verse 23 of Matthew 16 just lets Peter have it, and he yells, "Get behind me, Satan." Because Jesus saw it as another temptation, a temptation to be someone he was not. Here's the point. Expectations can be blinding. Expectations can actually obscure the message and the people, the messenger that are right in front of us. And so it is absolutely essential for us to calibrate our expectations. And this isn't just something about the Messiah. We need to make sure our expectations match or are calibrated for our children. Don't expect your 4-year-old to act like a 14-year-old. I mean, don't expect your baby to not cry in the middle of a worship service. Calibrate your expectation. Don't expect your boss to be perfect. Calibrate your expectations, even of God. Don't expect him to be some cosmic Santa Claus in the sky. Expectations can be blinding. And so the best thing we can do is to challenge our expectations and calibrate them. Even when it comes to evil, we need to understand and to calibrate our expectations of evil. This is going to be similar. What happens here in Daniel 8 is similar to what we saw in Daniel chapter 2, where in Daniel chapter 2, we saw this unveiling of evil, that this is how evil acts, that this is who evil is, that you can expect evil to do certain things because that's their identity, and action flows from identity. And here in Daniel 8, the calibration of our expectations of evil can be summarized with this. Evil destroys, now this is where it gets weird. Evil destroys their own. You can expect this of evil. You can expect that evil destroys their own. Why? Because that's who evil is. That's what evil does. And if you calibrate your expectations, then you will not be blinded. You will not be obscured. You will not falsely understand what is happening to you when you are confronted with and by evil. Daniel chapter 8, verse 1 begins with Daniel announcing once again that he had a vision. Like Daniel 7, he says, I had a vision, not Nebuchadnezzar, not another king, me. But he connects this vision in Daniel 8 to the vision in Daniel 7. This is what he says in verse 1. In the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, had a vision after the one that had already appeared to me. He's saying, remember Daniel 7? This one in Daniel 8 starts to unfold some of the images we saw there. In verse 2, he gives us a location where in his vision, he finds himself in Persia. Now, if you remember from the previous episode, the previous session, we saw that the first beast that looked like a lion was Babylon, and the second beast that looked like a bear was Medo-Persia. That's where he finds himself in this vision, in the land of the second beast. So Daniel is in this place when all of a sudden, he starts to see coming out of the mist, out of this moment, verse 3, a ram. And this ram is coming, and it has this emphasis on two. There are 2 horns. One is longer than the other one. Now, remember, don't get distracted. Don't get lost. The images are weird, but you can hang with us. We're going somewhere together. He's in Persia, he sees a ram, and there is this longer horn than the other one. The longer horn and the other one represents Medo-Persian alliance. This is how he interprets the image to be. He says, this is the Medo-Persian alliance. Here's where it gets interesting. In verse 5, Daniel starts to notice another animal charging at the ram. It's a goat. It's a goat, and it has this, very distinct horn, but the emphasis of the goat is rapidity, how quick it goes. You have words like suddenly and crossing the whole earth and not even touching the ground. There is this rapid movement of this beast. And once again in verse 21, Gabriel, the messenger of God, interprets who this goat is. It's the third beast from Daniel 7, the Greek Empire. And if you know anything about the Greek Empire, Alexander the Great basically conquers the known world at the time in a period of about 10 to 13 years. I mean, it is rapid. And you see this movement where this goat comes on the scene, and what does it do? It attacks and tramples the ram. Remember, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. And don't forget, we're still talking about the same thing we've been talking about for the first 7 chapters. Identity. Because what this vision unveils is not just this amazing prediction about what's going to happen in future kingdoms, the Medo-Persian Empire and the Greek Empire. No, what's unveiled is the character, the identity, the true nature of evil. Because think about this. The ram, the Medo-Persian Empire, was an evil empire. And who destroys the evil empire? The goat, another evil empire. Why? Because evil destroys their own. That's who evil is. Even if you are one that has dedicated yourself to the ways and to the kingdom of evil, this is what you can expect. Evil will destroy you. Because that's who evil is. That's what it does. Like we saw in Daniel chapter 7, how evil attacks and defeats and destroys the people of God, the good. But in Daniel 8, it says, now listen, evil doesn't just attack the good. Evil attacks evil. Evil even, this is crazy, evil attacks itself. And that's what we see happening with the goat and how it starts to unfold the imagery in verses 8 and following. You see, when Alexander the Great dies, this is referenced in verse 22 by Gabriel. When Alexander the Great dies, you have 4 generals that take over his kingdom. And that's the 4 horns that replaces the 1 horn on this goat. And the 4 generals, they take over, but they had no intention of ruling together in unity. No. Why? Because that's not who evil is. Without question and without delay, the 4 generals start to fight each other. Greeks fighting Greeks to reign the Greek Empire. And eventually, and you see this come out in verses 11 through 12, eventually, there only remained 1 general. And this general had not only destroyed evil, this general had destroyed himself, and now evil turns its attention to fighting God. That's how arrogant evil gets. It doesn't just use its power to destroy the good. It doesn't just use its power to assault and to attack other evil, even itself. Eventually, it uses its power to attack God. And in verses 11 through 12, you see that he is outlawing sacrifices and that there is no worship of God. Now, don't get distracted. Here is what we're trying to do. We're trying to calibrate our expectations. So let me be very clear. Evil does not give life. Evil destroys. And that is what you can expect from evil every time you encounter it. Evil does not give life. Evil destroys. It's who it is. And actions flow from identity. You should not be shocked then. Whenever you grab the tools of evil and you use them to try to accomplish good, and all it does is create more destruction. And you should also not be surprised if you bow your knee to evil, if you ingest the fruit of evil, that you become an agent of destruction yourself. That you become one that doesn't just destroy the good, but you destroy even those that are a part of the evil, that you even destroy yourself. There's a reason why. Throughout the Bible, whenever you see people that are dedicated to other gods, they do things like cut themselves. So think of 1 Kings 18 with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, and Elijah is there, and they're having a contest of whose God can provide the fire on the altar. And at one point, the priests of Baal, they start cutting themselves with swords, because that's how you worship evil, because that's who you are. Or take the Gerasene demoniac in Mark chapter 5. We find him in a cemetery, all alone, isolated, broken chains, and cutting himself with potsherds. When you bow your knee to evil, don't be surprised when you do things that ultimately end in the destruction of the good, of other evil, even of yourself. We need to calibrate our expectations, because if we have expectations that we hold on to so tightly, we can become blinded. Like Peter, who doesn't just rebuke Jesus. No, Peter's expectations led him to the point where he denies even knowing Jesus. Or the expectations of Judas, which led him to kiss the Savior of the world on the cheek, handing him over to the enemy to be destroyed. Expectations are blinding. And it is essential. It is absolutely essential for us to heed what Daniel 8 is unveiling. What we can expect of evil. Evil destroys. Evil destroys even their own. And if you bow the knee to evil, that is who you will become, because that's who evil is.
What do you think?
Did you say this will start out being Aram?
The part that, yeah, Daniel, when he got the dream, he was in modern day Iran. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then want him even be inaugurated into office. God's in control. We gotta understand, even the president, I feel that God was in control of getting him voted back in. President. He's still working.
He's working. So if we, this idea that Shane is talking about evil destroying evil, and in this case, the goat attacks the ram, and the Greeks attacking the Greeks, and the evil attacking God, and it's referring, we talked last week about Antiochus Epiphanes and how he desecrated the temple and, sprinkled pig's blood, stopped the sacrifices, slaughtered 100,000 Jews, attacking God in that case. Can you think of some other examples where we see this evil attacking evil, evil attacking God? Some other accounts in the Bible that come to mind that were similar. I mean, he mentioned the one of on Mount Carmel and the prophets of Baal, but any others that come to mind? Oh, they're there. Come on.
He's still alive and well.
Yeah.
He aggravates everything.
Yeah. Evil is there, and evil is evil. I was trying to think like about Cain and Abel. Go way back, yeah, way back. Yeah, back in Genesis, where he, or how many times, and this is the ones that when we were studying Joshua during the conquest, when armies were coming in, and many times where God created events where the enemies of Israel were attacking themselves. You remember when like a great wind would would blow and the trees would rustle and the armies that were coming are going to try to overwhelm the Israelites, and they would hear those sounds and they would all start fighting each other, and Israel would come in and the enemy was all destroyed themselves. I was thinking of that. Or Gideon, yeah. Yeah, when they were marching and they broke the pots and shit, and they thought there were a lot more coming against them. How many times when you go into Chronicles and Kings, Samuel, well, mainly Chronicles and Kings, where you have an old king, maybe his son or a brother kills him, and a new king comes in and they kill all the siblings of the old king, or all their siblings, and to eliminate all the descendants of that, so that they could. I mean, that's just evil doing evil, attacking itself, attacking their own family, killing brothers and sisters, mainly brothers, because they didn't want them to be competing for the throne. Think of any others?
I can think of a number that where evil, they're attacking, but they think they're attacking good. But they thought it was evil. What comes to mind is Stephen, where the Jews stoned him because they were attacked. They thought he was evil. They were evil. They thought he was evil.
Mm-hmm. And that may have been tied to the expectations that he was talking about how the Israels had their expectations of the Messiah, and all these people that killed Stephen. Hey, wait a minute, this can't be the Messiah. He didn't do what we expected the Messiah to do. So, yeah. I was thinking of when Nero burned Rome, or Rome burned, and probably was Nero, and he blamed it on the Christians, and then had all the persecution against the Christians, and that's just the action of evil. So I think that this process that he's talking about the identity of evil is there, and we can see it in our world. And not to get too political, but we kind of see evil going against evil right now among the losers of the last election. Well, I decided to go ahead and say it for you, Connie. But I mean, they're all eating each other right now. Anyway, how about some other examples of expectations in today's world besides the one I just maybe mentioned there? So where there's a mismatch between what we have and our expectations of something, someone, or some something that really doesn't really match the reality, or what it should be, maybe.
Well, right now YouTube is running a lot of exposés on past celebrities. Some of them are pretty current too, but they're revealing things that were not known when they were celebrities, and how they were put up on a platform, and thought highly of, and what really went on in their private lives, and how sinful and perverted they really were. And you think of that, you look at the deaths of all these stars that appear to have everything, and they would commit suicide or engage in self-destructing behavior, And you wonder, you know, why? And, it's just the nature of the beast. That's all,
Mhm.
the nature of the beast. They had
Mhm.
everything and they wanted more.
I'll write down a couple.
I think of some of the, what I call them revivals, I think of the return we went to in, 2021. The expectation was that there would be an awakening within our country. I don't know if you remember with the return with Jonathan Cahn, we had gone, in Washington DC, and the hundreds, the thousands and thousands of people that were there, and Billy Graham at the same time had the prayer walk. The expectation was that there was going, and on my part, let me just say this on my part, that there was going to be this awakening within the country, a Christian awakening. And then that was followed with the election and all of all of that has happened in the last 4 years. That it did not go.
Mhm.
Where to go?
Mhm. Yeah.
We're not stopped praying, we need to pray harder now than we did before.
Mhm. Mhm.
Praise the Lord.
Do we maybe have expectations of God that are maybe we shouldn't have, and maybe the expectations are different than they should be?
When you see all this going on down here, there's a verse of the Bible sticks in my mind all the time. It says, look up, your redemption draws nigh to you. So what are we looking for? We're looking for God to come and take us out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're getting closer every day, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Do we expect as Christians we should have better health? Live longer, live more comfortably, as because we're Christians? Do we have that expectation? Yeah. Um, how about government? Do we have expectations of government that are unrealistic? Do we expect government can fix things? We hope. No, sometimes it gets worse. How about our expectations of other people? Yeah, well, yeah, 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 yeah. Except for St. Louis and Kansas City, it pretty, yeah. Yeah, I was surprised, and the gambling and all that, but mainly, yeah, the abortion, I was disappointed. Had higher expectations on that one for sure.
I'm glad you're through all those places where we're getting over their TV, all this rhetoric we're hearing. This is, they're gonna change the whole world and make it a heaven to live in.
Yeah, yeah. How about I was expectations of other Christians? Do our expectations of our fellow believers, are they different than we? Yeah, we forget that though, all right? I think sometimes, and we can be pretty judgmental when another fellow believer makes a mistake or falls or big error, and we can be pretty judgmental because our expectations are they should be better than that. And we we all should be better than that, but maybe our expectations are,
How I feel.
yeah. And that's what, that idea, we need to think about that and recognize, how many mistakes have we made? Yeah, how many times have we?
And
Fallen.
they failed other people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think they're gonna get to heaven by walking on the heads of Christians on the way up, and it's not gonna work.
Yeah,
That happens too.
yeah.
Blessed are they that expect nothing, for they shall not be disappointed.
That's the new beatitude, right? Attitude, yeah. Blessed are merciful, they have mercy. Blessed are those who expect nothing. Oh. Oh.
Lighter note, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I guess that does, I mean, that's to this end over here. I mean, we should have some expectations. I mean, we should not have, I should expect more of myself and of other believers. How about we think of our families? Do we, or can we be accused of having too high of expectations of? Yeah, yeah, or father. Yeah, I hear that.
Can you imagine we leave here, we're gonna go to, we wanna go to a place which is no problems. I can't, can anybody realize a place that there aren't any problems? I can't.
Yeah,
Be nice to get there. Someday, huh?
someday we'll be there. We'll be there. Well, so I think what he was saying is that we need to calibrate our expectations. And I know as I look around, I have to remind myself that it may be I have higher expectations than I should. And so it's like Jan says, so as not to be so disappointed when it doesn't come through. But there's some truth to that, really. There's some truth to that. But so I think it is something we shouldn't be too surprised when evil does, and what evil, and we live in a fallen world, and we have all fallen. But anyway, that's any other expectations of today?
What God said in one place where I read. He's a loving God, and when they turn their life over to me, I'm a jealous God, and no one takes them out of my hand. And he's our strength. We're not our strength. We get our strength and guidance from him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that leads us. We look to him and we can put our hand in his hand and hang on.
Yeah, and that's a really, Jim, I think, those expectations, the expectations we have of the promises of God, and some of those things, like Terry taught a couple of weeks ago, and the things that we've been told, we will be saved. If we accept Christ, we will be saved. These promises, the promises of eternal life, those are good expectations and are not going to be disappointed. That's, all right. Well, Daniel is continuing to give us the idea of the end times. Next week, we'll get into Daniel 9, and Daniel 9 talks about the 70 weeks. Now here, we're really starting to get into some of the prophecies and how it ties into end times with Revelation. And if you take a look at chapter 9 for next week and kind of get an idea of what are some of the time periods that are discussed here, the 70 weeks, when did it begin, what prophecies are there, kind of get an idea. We'll try to keep it where we don't get overly complicated, but anyway, that would be for next week. So any other questions or?
There were going to be 10 kingdoms to come.
Mhm.
So are we going to get into that? What are these
Mhm.
10 kingdoms?
Yeah, it was some, because like you in the visions that were in chapter 2 and chapter 7, particularly the one with this golden statue with the 10 toes. And then, and the one with the 4 beasts, that last beast, the 4th beast had the 10 horns, is talking about those 10. So yeah, I think we'd be referring to some sort of revived Roman Empire with 10 countries, but they'd be talking.
Lisa,
That's my expectation. Yeah, yeah, but we won't be necessarily disappointed because my expectations won't be here. All right. With that, Jim, would you mind closing in prayer today for us?
Lord, we thank you for the day, study your word, worship you. We want to put our hand in your hand. Let you lead us in the way you want us to go. Watch over us through this week, be with our after service. Anoint our pastor so we can hear what you have on, lead on his heart. And just keep us going, Lord. Things look bad down here, but you're in control. That's all we have to do. Thank you for bless Mike and Dee and the time they put in on this lesson for us. We love them. Thank you, Lord.
All right.
My
Thank you.
expectations are that the Chiefs are going to win again.
Hey! I don't want to be disappointed. Oh. Yeah, that's fun. All right, well, have a good week and yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you really, you see it all around that, no matter how loyal somebody is to evil, evil is going to destroy them, even if, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I look at what Hitler did to some of his most loyal generals. So, all right. See you, everybody. Jack, Dave, France. Talk to you later.